just set the table for us. You have just come off the stage at the Comics Lounge in North Melbourne on Friday night, 15th of July. This is the last gig of your tour.
This is. I've got to go to the European bar to do a spot, which is one of those things where you're like, why the fuck did I agree to do that? I should have finished on the high. Was it a high? You're the reviewer. What was it like?
Well, you were on there for 80 minutes?
Yeah, I would have gone for longer, to be honest, but he came and stood side of stage. My manager came side of stage, and not in a way where it was like, oh, I'm just trying to get a photo. It was like, you need to leave. Everyone in the bar has had enough.
Well, how did the show go?
Oh, it was good. I'm very tired. I've been going for like 38 nights in a row because I was opening for Jim Jefferies. And then what I do is I say to his audience, would you like to see more of me? And then we see whatever turns up. And then they were good. And if they saw me opening for Jim, they're going to be my kind of crowd.
But Amos, it's very, very easy just to get a fix on you as a comedian about why you left Australia. Why you are based in America, what your views are of the comedy scene here.
Oh yeah, I always want to do American comedy. The Australian comedy is built out of like the British festival season and that British temperament of comedy, I think. And I didn't mind that, but all my heroes in stand-up comedy were from America. And when I started watching a lot of stand-up, I like people like Bill Burr, Patrice O'Neill. I like that Opie and Anthony crowd that would happen for Colin Quinn, Jim Norton, Dave Chappelle. This is like the group of comedians that I liked, and none of them were really here. And that style that I liked didn't seem to go anywhere in Australia. And I think that this country, because it's a smaller population, if you want to go anywhere, you have to kind of trim a lot of darker bits. I think a lot of Australian comedians are very funny, and they chop off a lot of what makes them funny to try and get on the very limited amount of media, and I don't think that produces good stand-up.
Just clarify what that style is that you're talking about. In other words, what do you do in America that you can't do here?
Well, there's a lot of people in America, first and foremost. Comedy is a beloved art form. This summed up American stand-up for me. I got there, my first club headlining spot was in Springfield, Missouri, and it's a town of like 35,000 people, and they have a 300-seat comedy club, and I did a Thursday show, 2 Saturday shows, a Friday show and a Sunday show in the town of 50,000 or 30,000, whatever it was. They love stand-up. If you go to a bar, they talk about who's your top 5 comics of all time. I don't think we have that. Stand-up here is like the travelling circus in the festival, and they've got like 8 names they've seen on television for the last 20 years, and they go and watch them, and some people take a punt. And it's just not in the bones of the nation to love stand-up outside of the festival, I don't think.
Why do you think that is? Given how Australia supposedly has this rich cultural, rich culture of humour, and
I think a lot of Aussies. I'll answer more about what I feel about our stand-up because I hate to like dissect comedy or whatever, and I don't sit here and say, oh, I'm a great comedian and this country wasn't there for me. But Jim Jefferies is a dear friend of mine, and he's been very supportive of me, and he was someone I looked up to. And while I was looking up to him as a comedian in this country, HBO specials, well regarded by people like Burr and Chappelle, and selling tickets all around the world, people inside the system that I was coming up in as a junior were didn't like him and didn't want to support him. And some people would say things like, oh, we're embarrassed he's an Australian comedian because he's a misogynist and his jokes are just crass and edgy, and that's not at the spirit of our comedy. And I remember thinking, well, if that's how they treat him, I'm a photocopy of that. I'm not even as good as him. Why would I stick around here? If someone of that level of talent is denigrated by the industry and the industry circle so much, I thought, well, this, for a group of people that are all about diversity, I felt like they were pushing some pretty similar voices.
So when did you decide to move to America?
About 2018.
Because you'd been with Jeffrey since 2014.
Yeah, he saw me when I was really young. We had the same manager, and I opened for him a few times. And I was working in commercial radio. I was just taking the cash. Yeah. And he was like, you've got to move. Now's the time. And then I moved, and then COVID happened. I picked a terrible time. But moving over there and seeing... It was the first time I saw all different kinds of comedy. And all comedians liked the craft. Whereas here, it's this festival scene where unless you're doing, this is what I thought the Australian comedy scene was. Soft left politics with a dick joke to get a clap. And all the stories are about how these people are bad and these people are good. And very few were like, I'm flawed, I have these terrible thoughts. Have you ever had this shocking thing you've done? I've done bad things in my life, which is like, I loved Richard Pryor as a kid. It was this confessional comedy of what a monster you can be. And then here, I felt like everyone was like, I've got a bigoted uncle, and he said this. And then they say the thing the bigoted uncle says, it gets a big laugh, and then they say some comment about it, and I'm left at the back of the room going, get your uncle up there, he sounds pretty funny. I mean, I don't agree with him, but he's got chops. Do you feel that? Because you've reviewed a lot of comedy, don't you think the same stuff keeps being pushed out?
You're addressing a very important issue that I want to broaden out in just one moment about woke culture and cancel culture and the idea that there's only one correct opinion or that there's only one correct take. What is happening, for instance, around the topic of trans and transsexuals and transphobia and so on, I think is a real strong indication of where we're going with comedy. The distinction between making a legitimate point that might disagree with a certain community and being absolutely excoriated because you've said something that we don't want you to say.
Well, I think what I see from a lot of people is there's a lot of acts who are very political and they're good, and then there's a lot of other acts who think that stand-up comedy, they really believe that stand-up comedy's highest calling is to be like, to shut things down and push forward a progressive truth. I think that's bunkum. I think stand-up comedy is about addressing the demons inside you and society, and that involves some kind of empathy for like, these people harbour these views, I see why, I don't agree, however, I make these other foibles in my character. I just think when you start to stand on top and go like, they're bad, and then you have all of the power, because it's like there's this group of people who I would suggest they're marginalised, but in the arts, they are aristocratic almost, and they have kind of decided what's cool and what's not cool. And a lot of comedians who don't fit in their worldview kind of don't get pushed along. And it's not like there's, at the end of the day, I don't give a shit, because we have the internet, and there is no real censorship. It's just you're not on the in circle, and people like to be in the in circle, but you can just put your stuff online, find your own audience. Because I don't have time for people who are like, I can't get ahead here, then leave, or go to the internet, or maybe you're not funny enough. But I think when you take a stand of being like, I'm not going to walk down the path I'm meant to walk down, it is harder, and you have to be excellent. Because when you stuff up once, they want to get rid of you forever.
What do you say about the issue of woke and context, which is the basis for the attacks that have happened against Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais?
I mean, I don't give a... Look, I've got woke... I've got friends who are like on the Greens party. I just think there's a big difference between actually caring. Like, anytime I see someone who I think actually cares about a marginalised group of people, I have got nothing but... And even if I disagree with them, I've got nothing but love for them, because I really believe in their heart that they are good people. There's them, and then there are other people who use their virtue as a way, as like a cudgel. They want to attack people. And I go, do you even actually... Is it even about the group of people you're trying to look after, or is it about attacking your enemies? You know, because I'm not feeling a lot of empathy and love coming from you here. It seems to me like you're spending a lot of your time kind of looking for people to disagree with rather than addressing the issue. I don't know what I'm even talking about sometimes, really. It's a difficult game.
You're 31, you've been doing this how long?
10 years, 11 years.
Where are you going?
I just want to, honestly, to a bad motel in America with oxycodone in my system. And I'm fine with that.
That's short term?
That's short term.
I'd
like to live in America for the next decade and tour to the point where I'm doing American theatres and have some specials. I just want to focus on that. I got an audition for Grey's Anatomy today, so who knows? I could do that.
Are you an American...
You know what my friend actually said? This is actually a good joke from a non-comedian. He goes, they've had McDreamy, they've had McSteamy, and now they're going to have McDonald's. It's his line about me, because I put on a lot of weight.
Are you still an Australian citizen?
I'm an Australian citizen and a Croatian citizen.
Right.
So
You're not an American citizen?
No, I've just got an O1 visa, but I'm seeing a girl from Chicago, so once I've married her and got the visa, I'll be a single American citizen after.
Okay. You were up there for like 80 minutes tonight. Normally you do what, about 50?
I think, yeah, you do 50, but I've been opening for Jim, and he's like, people pay a certain amount of money, and he likes to give them a 90-minute show. And I don't know, maybe sometimes I think that's too long, but I don't want to rip people off. I saw a really good comedian, won't say their name, but they did a 40-minute show with an $80 ticket, or 45 minutes, plus they're having a opening act. And I thought, now that I'm actually charging good money and it's not a festival, I'm like, they gotta get a car park and drive in, and petrol prices. It's like, give them a fucking show.
Amos Gill, do you know that you are one of the very few comedians from Australia that actually attacks the boomers?
Oh, really? Oh no, there's a lot of them out there now. We attack my generation. I think that's my hackiest stuff, attacking the boomers.
Are you afraid?
It's just our dads.
Are you afraid of actually becoming like a boomer? Because there are some things in there that you say about the realities of getting older, how in your youth you like to attack, fight the power, but then as you get older you realise, I'm getting a 15% return on that company, so...
I do, and that's something I talk about a lot, but I felt like that was in Australia. It's very comfortable here, and my journey in Australia would be this. I'd probably do a Triple M breakfast show somewhere, I'd do a little bit of telly here and there, I'd sell enough tickets, I'd make a bit of money, and I'd sit back. I'd probably move to Perth or something, try and buy a boat and go to Rottnest Island and be like, let's suck whatever minerals are left in this country and sell it to whatever evil superpower is out there and retire. But when you're on the road in stand-up and you're trying to make money, I feel like that keeps you hungry and angry.
Can you characterise the difference in the reaction that you get between US audiences and local audiences?
I guess in America I get this charity thing at the start of being a foreigner, and so I get to have this angle. I have this angle in America where I'm like, God, you've got these crazy right-wing people and these crazy left-wing people, and your country's being torn apart, and all you do is talk about how horrible you all are. But I'm an immigrant who came from a better country, but I still came here. And so it's nice to be the fish out of water, and you're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Whereas here in Australia, I don't get that. I get a lot of people who are like this. Well, mate, Spano is funnier than this guy. Don't get that in America. They're very excited that you're up there performing, whereas Australians think you're a flog.
I just want to return to just one issue about the issue of context.
Yeah.
Something that Chris Rock has done some really, really good material about, and again, which is realised in the reactions to Dave Chappelle's material and Ricky Gervais's material about trans, where the reactions against them depend on like a micro focus on select lines, and a refusal to pull back and look at the big picture and the proper context in which they are saying certain things. With Chappelle,
I think you're. I've always believed there's two kinds of people, and it's people who have bad things happen to them or have frailties in them or they're a victim of something, and you either choose to dramatise that or make fun of it. And you either believe that inclusion is to never be nasty to people or to be nasty to everyone. There's like this split, right? So I think a lot of comedians in America have this thing where it's like, and it's in the culture, if we're roasting you, it means you're a part of society and we do accept you. If we're not going to talk about you at all, or we can't make jokes about you, that means that we're looking down on you. And I've always preferred inclusion through mocking. And some people don't see it that way. They think it's punching down, it's this, it's that. I don't think that way. So I can't, I joke about the most horrible, a man molesting me. I talk about any bad thing that's happened to me. I choose to go what's the funny angle here? Some people choose to cry and be and upset, or my grandma's dementia or whatever. What's the point? It's nothing is. Maybe that's a nihilism in me. I'm like, nothing's important.
You know that there are lines in your sauna hand job routine that could be taken out of context.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I was molested by an older man, but get over it and come. At least you got touched. It's like that's the tenet of the story.
And
someone would be like, you're basically saying that rape victims should try and smile through it. And you go, all right, I guess, but I'm done with, let them have that view. This is the other thing I don't like, because I've got some centre-right views, or I've got some things that are kind of like, I would say some repulsive things. I can't expect that people will like them. That's the other kind of thing I don't like about stand-up comedians. It's just like, I'm getting attacked because I said this nasty thing. Well, what did you think was going to happen? Just toughen up. They're allowed to hate you. They can call you he's a monster, he's a bigot. Cool. Like, that's what's going to happen. You want to shut them up? If you believe in, like, your ability to say this nasty thing, people will say nasty stuff back here. Write it down and make fun of it.
Amos Gill, do you believe in a comedy god?
Yes. Comedy god would be honesty. Or do you mean a person? An entity?
I mean, do you actually believe that there is a deity that looks
you know
down
what?
on you and helps you at certain moments that will hit you with a bolt of magic?
No, but there is this, like, I wouldn't say that, but I think there's this, most comedians, I don't know whether they say this, but I don't know about a god, but I do feel an energy which is like you feel like you're riding a wave and you're in touch with things and things are just coming to you because you're present. So whenever you're present, then you do feel this force of like, it's a good show. A lot of the times you're just rolling out your hacky shit and just getting through it. We're going, all right, we've got 5 minutes to go. Hit him with the pill testing, hit him with the boomer material, and we're out of here. And there's other times where you're like, we're all in this together. And you want those moments as much as you can. But they don't come that often. I'm not that good.
Do you do anything to psych yourself up before a show? Psych yourself up before a show?
I have a weird alchemy of like 3 beers, half a Red Bull, and stretch. And I used to be able to not be able to talk to anyone. And as I've gotten older, I kind of have tried to train myself to be able to like just enjoy a meal, hang around with some friends backstage, and then go on. Because there's nothing worse than being a person who's like, just need my space and it's a process and leave me be.
When I saw you at Comedy Festival, I think it was last year, you were incredible. It was so full of energy.
Yeah, you wrote me one of the nicest reviews ever. I loved that review. No one else reviewed me the whole festival.
It's another issue we can talk about.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, they're not even reviewing me anymore. Not only, like, I could handle if it was bad, but I don't even get, I'm so off the fucking beaten path, off the radar, that I was like, I don't even get a review. Honestly, I remember thinking, this is the best show I've ever done. I've got something to say for once, and no one's hearing it, except for the audience, which is meant to be about. But because I'm one of these people that's like, this is the industry, fuck the industry, I don't need them to like me. But then I go home and go, why aren't I getting a Barry? I still call it the Barry, because he's the greatest Australian comedy export ever, probably. So.
Well, you're not allowed to say that
no.
Because he said something that certain parts of the trend.
Yeah, an old man said one comment that people found disagreeable, so his legacy is washed. Yeah. I remember that review you spoke about. The festival makes you do a mandatory welcome to country. And that's always been something that bothers me. I remember being like, because it's just this tokenism that's involved in it, which is like, I'm going to get on stage, and in my act, I basically say a lot of things that are ironically terrible, or these are my bad views. But then to start a show with like, I'm a good person and I believe this, to me, I'm like, that's for official functions. Why am I saying there was a genocide and we're all horrible as a society and people have suffered? Anyway, fingering. It's to me, I've always found it like sort of demeaning. It's just always a room full of white people going, oh no, we're really good people. And you go, it almost like, I think some of these people at the comedy festival think they play a welcome to country, don't know any Aboriginal people in their private life, but would walk around like this. I'm closing the gap. I'm giving a shout out before comedy.
What would you say to the idea of just doing one welcome to country announcement at the beginning of the festival and saying, okay, that's it, that's done, okay, welcome, that's it. Everyone can now just go do their show and just presume that
I just think like, I want to do a welcome to country, but it should be like for all progressive values. So before you go on, they should play a thing and you're like, you do a welcome to country, and then you're like, I also believe that love is love and gay people should be able to marry whoever they want, trans rights are human rights. Just say everything that they want and just get it out of the way, and then go, and now I'm going to make fun of all of that. Is that all right? Or it just doesn't. I say that in America. Like, you don't go on an American comedy club And just as you're about to go on, they're just like, hold on a second. Oh, the Trail of Tears, Andrew Jackson. What that president did to the Native Americans wasn't right. Now get your orders for chicken fingers in. The show's beginning. It's weird. It is. No, the ideal scenario is you actually talk about these things because you care about them in your act, rather than them being forced onto you.
Mm.
That's like, people will be like, oh, you don't want to welcome the country. No, I'm just saying, if you want to talk about Indigenous issues, do it. Talk about it.
There was a very tangible level of anger last time I saw you at the festival. I think,
Yeah, I'm always angry at the festival.
Yeah. Well, why is that? And how do you contrast that to, say, your tone tonight?
Yeah, I don't want to do festivals anymore, really. I don't want to do them. I think a lot of comedians are kind of over the idea. It's economically not that viable. You're competing against all these people. There is a machine and industry there that very clearly there's an oeuvre of who they want and what they want, and they'll push that forward as much as they can. And if you're not in that, all you're doing is paying a lot of money to be pushed to the outer limits and to do your show over there, and you're not really what they want here. And none of this is explicit. This is all just a feeling, and I think that's fine. And so you just go off and do your own thing. Go and do your own shows. And a lot of the next generation of kids who are coming up, I think most of them just go on the internet and then they just tour their own shows, and that's a better system. It is weird to me that a lot of like comedians who are left leaning, they love the festival. They love the festival so much, and it's like you're going against. Why wouldn't you go and do independent? Why do you want to be a part of a big? Why do you want to be part of a conglomerate? Like, isn't it better to go and go, we're doing this, we're getting fairer pay for our industry. You know, venues charge you so much outside, the festival takes its clip and everything, and that's good on the way up, and I'm thankful. It definitely taught me a lot of things, but you should go off and do your own thing at some point. Well, I've been talking about doing my own things for a long time, and I hadn't done them, and now it's been really good to do it this time.
Are we likely to ever see you at another Melbourne Comedy Festival?
Mate, I don't know, maybe. Probably an Adelaide Fringe or the truth is, Perth Fringe and Adelaide Fringe probably, because I have fun. The cities are alive. The festival is this all-encompassing experience. Melbourne, the comedy festival is just like down over there, and I don't ever have that good a time.
Cancel culture, I think, is on the decline now because they
got them all.
So because they're failing. They didn't get Chappelle. They didn't come anywhere near getting Ricky Gervais. Yeah. I mean, if they couldn't get Chappelle, why are you now going to object to what Ricky Gervais is saying?
Well, you know, they didn't get Dave Chappelle, but I think there is a ripple that's going to be felt from that, which was they caused so much trouble, and that was Dave Chappelle, the greatest comedian ever, that I think comedians at my level, if I was to give a special and there was some stuff that was disagreeable in there, I think they'd cut me loose because I'm not worth it financially. So I think that's why like Andrew Schultz has moved and he bought his special back. So I think these institutions that are bowing to a very small view from the Twitterverse and the sort of woke perspective, I really believe that they'll just essentially go bankrupt because they're not programming for making money to the broad populace anymore. They're trying to please the loudest voices and it'll sink them. And that's why all these people are succeeding on the sides. I forgot, someone had a good joke about this, but it was essentially like, imagine if you're a deli and someone was like, Coca-Cola rots kids' teeth, it's evil, and so you just stop selling Coca-Cola. You wouldn't do that because you go broke. It's the soft drink everyone wants. So delis wouldn't do that for a product like that. But it's nice that they think we're important enough to affect culture, though. You know, because if we weren't getting cancelled, I'd be like, oh no, the art form's dropped off. You know? Every time a comedian gets cancelled, I'm like, look at that, they think we matter. We don't. I'm like, how much effort did you put into this? What are we doing? Look, my brother's younger than me and he loves stand-up comedy. Hello? I'm just doing an interview with Jim Jefferies. He doesn't work for any major publication anymore, so you can talk. Yes. Oh, the Mill too. I'm actually a comedian and I don't do anything in regards to the chicken parmesanas or anything like that. No, but I've actually just broken into an office to do a quick interview. So can I take down your name and I'll tell them and maybe get you to call again. What was your name, sorry? Michelle? I'm Amos Gill, by the way. Ever heard of me? My stand-up comedy? It does ring a bell. Thank you so much. It would have been terrible otherwise. Now, what's your thoughts, while I take your name down, what's your thoughts on Australian comedy? Because I've just been asked a question, and the question was, what do I think of Australian stand-up comedy right now? Do you think it's weak sauce, or do you think it actually does, talk about the issues of the world and bring levity to dark times? A bit of both. Okay, so Michelle, call us back in 10 minutes, and we'll deal with that, okay?
Should have put that on the speaker.
All right, no, she just laughed. She didn't seem to have any strong opinions.